We continue our executive series today as we are joined by the owner of the newest team in the AF1, the Arizona Bandits, Mr. Matt Mason. Matt, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us.
Josh, thank you, man. I appreciate your persistence in getting me on, and I look forward to a long history with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I remember hearing that you were a former arena player. Take us through that a little bit, your football journey, and kind of your original introduction to arena football.
Oh, man, how much time do you have? I was playing football at Arizona State University. I got into a little bit of trouble. Was removed from the team at that point. I had some NFL aspirations. Kind of went into a dark depression after football. Started working at a bar. Had a guy come up to me and ask me if I'd like to play semi-professional football. So I did for one season out here in Arizona. That led me to coaching, which I was coaching at a high school in Arizona called Cortez High School, which being from Arizona, it's a very high ESL school, which is English as a second language. So there was, my first year of coaching, I had about 13 players. 6 of them didn't speak English. I would have to use hand signals and kind of coordinate them that way, shaking the phone while I'm doing it with my hand signals. And it really made me fall back in love with football. For a while, I was kind of bitter with it. Went to a tryout based on those kids, ended up making the team, was thrown a football in my back by a quarterback named Chad DeGranier, who had asked me to come and do some snaps. I was trying out for defensive end and long snapper, and he had asked me because he saw me snapping. He had said, "Hey, you ever snap for center? We don't have any centers here at this tryout. We need to get looks." So I said, sure, I'll do that. And then that's when he threw the ball at me. He said it was one of the best snaps he's ever had at any level, whether it was pro, college, high school, anything like that. So I was excited. I ended up getting invited to camp, busted my rear end the few weeks of hell camp that we had. They brought in a veteran the week before the first game. And you know how that is. And, they named him the starter, even though I'd been going through camp, through, 2-a-day tryouts with guys trying to make the team on top of me. Now, at the time, I was probably only about 255 pounds. I was trying out for DN, like I said, wasn't expecting to play center at all, but it ended up happening. First game, we go down to play the Reading Express, and I started at defensive end that week because I was a little bit upset at practice. I ended up showing them that I'm a defensive end. This was my other position. About 3 minutes left in the first quarter, I get put back at center and never on the field ever again. So I played center everywhere I went. That's what led me to arena football.
Let's go to the Arizona Bandits. I believe you were originally supposed to be the owner of what was going to be the California Grizzlies and ended up with a team in Arizona. Tell us a little about your background about how the franchise came to be.
Yeah, so I was actually hired as general manager by the California group that was technically at the ownership. That was later nulled because they didn't have the finances, later to find out. But going through California, trying to organize a football team in California, I wouldn't want another business person to put their money in something that they weren't going to get a return. When that happened, I was there for about 4 months working. When I went back to Lee and the league at the time, I just told them, I said, no offense to California, but, it's impossible. At that point, they offered me Las Vegas. I said, no, thank you. I didn't want to move. But then I said, what about Arizona? We have a very long history with arena football. I think like you had mentioned in one of the questions that, we have what we consider to be the mecca of arena football here in Arizona. We're right in the middle of it all. I mean, if you geographically placed us, we would be right in the smack dab middle of them all. So we're not that close to Glendale. We're not close to Tucson or that close to Prescott. And then why not? Why wouldn't I want Arizona to have a premier indoor football team? You know, the Arena Football One is establishing themselves as being the top tier programs. So that's what we're going with on this.
What was it like last year sitting back and watching things fall apart? Was that discouraging for you?
Oh man, you want to talk about anxiety? Let's just talk about giving people a lot of your money and then having them never call you back. It was a nightmare. I mean, we had our deposit in, we had everything going. What had happened was we had lost our original contract for Desert Diamond to the Arizona Rattlers. Everything we planned on, all of our marketing campaign, everything was planned on that arena. So with only a few months to scrounge and try to pick it out, it just wasn't in our interest to start last year. Thank goodness. But also, I wish I would have been a part of it. I think, some of the players that we had, the talent, we could have done a lot in that. But we would have also had been mixed up in that storm where, nothing ended up being the truth. We were all told a lot of really great stories about ownership groups that were a part of this league, including some of the teams that shut down. So it was hard to sit back and watch it because, I was on every single owner's call up until that fourth week when they shut me off. And, I was a big voice in the room, I think, which I'm not sure if that's the reason why they didn't want me around at the time. But it was just, for us, it was scary, man. It was unlike anything I had been a part of before. And I'm just glad that they brought in the people to stabilize the league that they did. Because I think at the end of the league, the season, if those people wouldn't have stepped in, it would have never happened. It would have never finished, and we wouldn't have been here today. So,
Let's go talk about your logo a little bit. Tell us about the origin of your logo. I know you had to change up a little bit, I guess, in color scheme since you originally had the logo. So tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. So last year, I know when they started dropping all of the uniform releases and everything, you're either orange and black or blue and black, right? I mean, maybe red, but I'm colorblind, so it still looks like orange. And the logo was designed by a designer from the AFL at the time. Not that we didn't like it, but it was just kind of vague, little bit of mysterious. We liked it, but when we decided to move away from it, it was because we did want to revamp, redo what it was we were before. We didn't want to be a part of anything that was what was last year, and that's logo included. Even though we did trademark it and do all the copywriting you would need, I still didn't trust the people who gave it to us or that we got it from. So that was where we decided to start revamping the logos. Our colors, we are named the brightest team in Arena Football One. What? And that's kind of what we're going for. We want to be the Oregon Ducks of the Arena Football One. We want to have multiple helmet combinations. Right now we have 4 uniform combinations that we're working on for the season. And going forward, very happy to be a part of the Arena Football One now and not what it was before.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you talked a little bit earlier. I know big questions people had about your team is whether there's room in the valley for another team. You have an historic team, the Rattlers there. There's a couple other indoor football teams there. Why do you think another team will be successful? And are you in direct competition with the Rattlers?
No, they're completely different league, folks. It's a completely different game. For those who know the different rules of arena football, the field goal netting, that is very unique to what we are, where they don't have that single motion versus double motion. A lot of different rules like the deuce. It's a a different game, a different environment. The original arena football, it was always a show, and that's what we're going to be doing here in Arizona, along the same DNA lines of the Savannah Bananas, where we have a Wild West show. We've got, a lot of other things going on during the game. I can't really divulge it all, but, there's going to be music, there's going to be concerts, there's going to be dancing. It's going to be an event that if you're in Arizona, you're going to want to come see it. I promise you.
You really originally had talked about building an arena for your franchise. Where are things at right now with that? And can you give us any update on the arena situation?
Yeah, absolutely. We should be announcing our arena next week. That is the plan. We already have started intaking season ticket interests, box suite interests, things like that for partnerships and people. The arena that my business partner, David Glynn, and his group are planning on building is going to be somewhere out in Scottsdale. They're still looking at a few different location sites. The plan is the build would take about 16 months and would be a multiple court facility. Mainly, its intention was to help bring multiple courts for basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, that sort of thing to Arizona. When this had kind of come up and the partnership with David began, they were already in process of working on that. So this just became something that we could fill into. We could be their main show there. And, when it comes to getting sports licensing, or not licensing, but our sports betting license, I guess you could say, a big part of that is venue size. And that's where I believe the arena was going to be somewhere between 10 and 12,000 people. And that would hopefully be our home down the road. Now, where we're at right now, we can financially be fine. If we stayed there for the history of our team, the benefit to us versus other teams is in other sports, we're not paying players millions of dollars. So, when it comes to ticket pricing and things like that, we've made it to where it is the most affordable arena football in the state of Arizona. And it's going to have, I don't want to say better players because they're all great players, but, a lot of our players have NFL, CFL, UFL experience. These are super high level guys still wanting to play, still trying to make it outside. Most of our guys have that dream of having an NFL team, show up and call and say, hey, look, come to camp. I had an opportunity and then got injured. And so, it was what it was, and it is what it is. It's an opportunity for athletes to have another platform to stand on.
Let's talk about your new head coach, Chad DeGrainer. I won't say a name on here, but I know you all were originally supposed to have a different coach. What was the coaching process been like, and why was Chad DeGrainer the right man to lead your franchise forward on the field?
Yeah, Chad is a longtime coach. Chad was my quarterback. I trust Chad and his offensive play calling abilities. Through the years that I was also coached by Chad in arena football, I've found a very high respect for him. Offensively, he was always going to be my guy. I know the other gentleman that we had hired last year, it just financially didn't work out for us, and respectfully parted ways. And I know he's doing other things right now, so that's great. But Chad is the guy that, when it comes to arena football, and being a backup quarterback with the Rattlers for as long as he was, you learn a lot, right? You're helping the offense break down the defense. You're doing a little bit more than just playing quarterback. And so, with that, I know Chad has the ability to put up 70-plus points a game just with his play calling. If our defense does what they're supposed to do and they get us a few of those stops, we're going to win a lot of games.
Did he overlap with Bonner said Bonner?
Yeah, so he was a backup to Bonner, and then, had kind of gotten his opportunity after the Bonner effect. And then he had played a few other places, I think Carolina, and I know in Arizona.
Know you all had at least one tryout so far. What is the kind of the roster building been like for you all there?
Yeah, great. I mean, we signed 6 players from the tryout, kicker, a lot of athletes. A gentleman who has never played football in his life was a college basketball player. But, we saw something in him. This happens to be a sport where guys that can play multiple positions can transfer in and do a lot more. And yeah.
As an expansion franchise, what are your expectations for year one? You taking down Walker in Montana?
Ced is the best defensive coordinator, best coach in the game right now. So last year, watching the teams, I thought that the Nashville Billings game was incredible. I think that Billings was able to really, really coach well between Shedrick and Cedric. They had the best coaching duo in the AFL last year. We are looking to make a splash. I know the preseason rankings had us at 6. I'd like to see where we're at now with all of the most recent signings, and then a few guys that are they're waiting to be released as far as that we're working on. And win now. I tried to steal it from Jerry Buss and the Los Angeles Lakers when they were building that, and from the show, and it's win now. We don't, we're in a position in Arizona where, like you said, the mecca of arena football, we've got a lot of eyes on us, which is why we are signing the guys that we're signing. So I'm that confident that, my defensive line is going to be one of the best in the league. We've signed some of the best offensive linemen around. We're working on a few extra little pieces. We've got some guys that we're kind of waiting to announce to make an even bigger splash.
What are you doing to get out and build up the fan base there in Arizona?
Absolutely. Next weekend we're going to be at a 7-on-7 outdoor tournament for all age levels. We are starting to show up to events, different things that we have going on here coming up soon. We've got one of our partnerships with Human Blue coming up in February for one of their grand opening announcements. They renamed and are a great PT company that we're going to be working with. Doing a lot of engaging with the high schools in the areas. Jason Jules, a good buddy of mine, is the Arizona's president of the Arizona High School Coaches Associations that we've talked to, that has an event, that has asked. We will be there. So I'm doing everything out in the community. We're working on our dance team right now. Should have some announcements on that. And yeah.
What are your goals across the board for year one? What do you want to have accomplished by the end of this year?
Yeah, minimum playoffs. That's our biggest goal right now is doing what it takes to make it into the playoffs year one, and then hopefully bring home a championship year one. I know, once again, with some of the talent that we've been talking to and that we've already signed, it can be us. So watch out.
On that, what do you think about the schedule? I think you got Billings 3 times, you got Albany. What are kind of your thoughts on your schedule and your division?
Excited to be playing against a team like Albany for sure. I think that's a destination trip for our team and our players. And then having the defending champion in your own league, in your own division, it's tough. And, we respect the hell out of them. Their coaching, their players. And then we've got Oregon and Washington. Washington last year grinded through their season. I know that Coach Wells is very good at what he does when it comes to recruiting players and local talent. And then you got Oregon with Chuck. You never know what Chuck is going to pull out of his pocket, let's just say, because he also is a guy that has a lot of connections. I feel that our division is strong, and it should be the one that does compete for the championship.
Yeah, Chuck and JR have a lot of energy too, so you got to match that
They
energy.
do. When you see me at the first game, you'll understand my energy.
What you got any last message for the fans out there, AF1 and Bandits fans in general?
Yeah, we're here to represent AF1 and arena football the right way. I believe that we've brought in the right guys, the right talent to capture a championship year one. And so for all of the Arizona fanatics that do support all of your local teams, we support them as well. So come support us, and I promise you, you guys will be excited to see what we do.
Absolutely. Arizona Bandits owner Matt Mason, appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely, man. Hey, go Devils. Make sure you support the Sun Devils NIL. Let's go.